They failed to make a distinction between bad nationalism and good nationalism, the bloated bureaucracy that has come to see itself as the benign guardian against fascism while routinely suppressing liberty.
E-Safety Commission, anyone? Ayaan Hirsi Ali is a Somali-born Dutch-American writer, activist, and conservative thinker and former politician, best known as a major critic of Islam and an advocate for the rights of Muslim women. In her early 30s, she renounced the Islamic faith of her upbringing. She began identifying as an atheist and became involved in Dutch centre-right politics, eventually winding up getting elected to Parliament. Her criticism of Islam and her work on a film saw her receive death threats that meant that she had to go into hiding. And her Dutch co-filmmaker, Theo van Gogh, was murdered. In 2005, Time magazine named Ayaan Hirsi Ali as one of its 100 most influential people in the world. She now lives in the United States with her Scottish-American husband, Neil Ferguson, the well-known historian. She was one of the new atheist crowd with Christopher Hitchens and people like that. And it was Christopher Hitchens, the late great thinker and atheist, who once described Ali as the most important public intellectual to come out of Africa ever. A little over a year ago, Ayaan Hirsi Ali announced her conversion to Christianity, and her speech at ARC this year focused on the question of whether the West is inseparable from Christian values. Quite a topic for a former prominent new atheist. She started her speech by considering liberalism. That's true classical liberalism, the centre-right kind, not the liberalism in the American left-wing sense of the word. She says ARC is the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship, but citizenship itself implies an entity for us to be citizens of.
Citizenship implies a distinct political entity. For most of the modern era, that entity was called the nation-state. Modern liberals trashed the nation-state and nationalism, invoking Hitler and Mussolini, and arguing that nationalism had caused World War II, not to mention the Holocaust. They failed to make a distinction between bad nationalism and good nationalism.
Ali made a clear distinction between the old classical liberals of the mid-19th century and the modern liberalism of today.
The old liberals of the 19th century had passionately believed in the nation-state and saw it as indispensable for responsible citizenship. The modern liberals disagreed. Many were not liberals at all, in the sense that John Stuart Mill would have understood them. Some were really social democrats, well to the left of true liberalism. Some were tenured intellectuals who transformed the modern university into a place for brainwashing young minds into hating their national identity and history. Some were the editors in charge of legacy media whose focus in the past 50 years seems to have been to undermine the national institutions. Some worked as activists within the web of think tanks and NGOs. And finally, some ran the administrative state, the bloated bureaucracy that has come to see itself as the benign guardian against fascism while routinely suppressing liberty.
E-Safety Commission, anyone? So what do these more left-wing liberals actually want to replace the nation-state with? Ayaan has an idea or two about exactly what they want to replace it with.
The radical pursuit of heterogeneity in the name of multiculturalism and diversity, international and supranational entities designed to transcend or sidestep the nation-state, such as the United Nations or the European Union. Some even dreamt of world government, the globalists. There were other alternatives to the nation-state too. For example, Islamists argued and continue to do so that the caliphate should be restored and Sharia law imposed. But these visions of a post-national world are delusional. The international and supranational bodies turned out to be dysfunctional, tyrannical rule of bureaucracy, and wasteful, chronically prone to fraud and abuse. The experiment, based on the bogus theory of multiculturalism, run to bring about heterogeneous societies in Europe, has in large measure failed. As for the Islamist states, as we've seen, all the territories snatched and governed by jihadi insurgents are ghastly hellscapes.
Well, she certainly pulls no punches. I guess when you've lived the horror, you don't mince words. And Ayaan Hirsi Ali has written extensively about how she herself was a victim of female genital mutilation at the age of 5, supported on religious grounds by her grandmother, but opposed by her father. Only her father couldn't do anything about it because he was locked up at the time by a communist government. She says it's time for us in the Free West to stop the post-national experiment and get back to the nation state. She says the experiment has already gone too far and we need to get back to sensible nationalism and sensible levels of immigration to match, something that's already happening in her home country of the United States.
The good news is that the proponents of a post-national global order are cast out into the political wilderness in America. The Democratic Party today cannot adopt the "let's sit this one out until 2028 and everything will be okay" posture of 2016. They have, number one, no clear leadership to help the party navigate its way out of the mess they have put themselves in. All the clever Democrats are now serving in or supporting the Trump administration. Number two, they have no funding. The big donors have moved on, especially after Kamala Harris's profligate campaign. Number three, they have no media monopoly. And it's not only X, formerly Twitter. There is a forest of new media, and most of that is right of center and beyond. Number four, they have no control of government, especially through the bureaucracy and intelligence communities. In fact, all DEI hires are being actively doged from various agencies.
Ah, yes, every Western nation needs a good doging right now, especially us right here in Australia. The other side doesn't get more than $1 billion of taxpayers' money to bring you news from a centre-right perspective like the ABC does to bring you news from a left-wing perspective. In fact, we don't get a red cent from the government. We need voluntary donors and supporters like you to keep going and growing. And we hate asking for charity, so we've done a deal with what we think is the world's best VPN, virtual private network service. It'll keep you and your family truly safe without slowing down your internet speeds, and you can watch Netflix or other streaming services using your regular accounts with them as if you're viewing from any country in the world. And you can sign up for less than $3 a month and get a whopping 83% off the normal price. Just go to piavpn.com/otherside to sign up and get more info. That's piavpn.com/otherside.
Most important of all, their globalist message was rejected in favor of the America First agenda. In short, they have no power. And that is good news. It means Americans have a better chance of achieving the mission of this conference, which is to restore responsible citizenship. For me, responsible citizenship means the restoration of a healthy nationalism. That's the preeminence of national sovereignty, loyalty to a shared national identity, and citizenship defined as allegiance to the nation state. It's fidelity to the Constitution or to the foundational principles and mythos of the nation, to the idea that all citizens are equal before the law, that we all have the same rights and obligations, that justice is blind, that we are all innocent of any crime until proven guilty, that the government is limited and constrained by law, and it's there to protect these things.
Wow, I just want to play that last minute of her speech over and over and over. So what about the original theme of the speech, the question of whether the West can be in any way separated from Christianity? You don't have to be a Christian to agree with everything that Ali has said up until now, and you don't even need to be a Christian to accept that Christian ideas do underpin the centuries-old evolution of Western civilization and liberal thinking.
In Europe, Christianity remains, despite decades of secularization, the crucial operating system of society. Without it, the apps don't work. When I came to Europe in 1992, fleeing a forced marriage that was part of a failed clan system, this was the type of nation-state that I found: wealthy, peaceful, stable, and optimistic, but still rooted in the Calvinist and Catholic traditions. I had left the chaos of Somalia and other African nations where I had lived, where tribal, ethnic, and religious conflict had made it impossible to develop a healthy nationalism. What I found in Holland was truly inspiring to me. I found the same inspiration when I first went to the United States. But in the past 16 or so years, I have seen on both sides of the Atlantic a sustained effort to drive Christianity to the margins of our society. I believe this gamble on secularism will go terribly wrong. It already has.
Ali says that every successful nation has to be based on more than just a constitution and a body of law, that there must be some kind of transcendental stories that unite citizens to an ethical as well as a legal code.
For the West, that was the Judeo-Christian story of the Bible. The biblical understanding of human sinfulness inspired the concept of limited state power or rule of law, emphasizing checks and balances to prevent tyranny, Isaiah 33:22. Governments are seen as instruments to maintain order and justice, but not as ultimate authorities. The belief that all humans are created in God's image, Genesis 1:27, underpins ideas of equal worth, human rights, and dignity for all individuals, including the poor and the neglected. Biblical teachings such as love your neighbor as yourself, Leviticus 19:18, emphasizes care for others and fairness in governance. The Bible's distinction between God's sovereignty and earthly authority, Matthew 22:21, influenced the Western principle that the state should not overreach into matters of faith and conscience.
The state should not overreach into matters of faith and conscience. Wow, what a novel idea for the modern West's massive bureaucratic, technocratic states like Australia. Biblical principles clearly put the state as subordinate to a higher power and more eternal moral and ethical codes, requiring leaders not to exploit their people. We toss out the operating system, says Ali, and the app simply won't run as it's supposed to.
Biblical ethics stress that rulers and citizens are accountable to a higher moral law, ensuring that government acts justly and protects the vulnerable. These principles collectively shaped Western values like democracy, human rights, and constitutional government. Responsible citizenship in the West is inseparable from Christian morality. Please, let's aspire to build or restore the nation states on which our security depends. And let's ensure that they run as they used to on that Christian operating system without which we can have no moral compass. Thank you.
Now, Ayaan Hirsi Ali's old friends like Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris would argue precisely that point, that we don't need Christianity to provide our moral compass, that morality can come from elsewhere. What do you think? Can secularism survive? Or do we need to ditch it and the moral relativism that says all religions are equal? Do we say that our countries are built upon the Old Testament of Judeo-Christian belief and the New Testament of Christian belief, and that you have to at least respect those core values to be a responsible citizen in the West? Let us know your thoughts by leaving your comments below. We don't turn off the comments like the ABC does, disgracefully, considering that they're taxpayer funded. But anyway, that's another story. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and do head over to the other. It really does help. I mean, I say it all the time, and you probably think, oh yeah, like and subscribe, like and subscribe. I'm always saying that on YouTube, but actually do it. Actually go down and press that subscribe button and that little notification bell beside it, because that's how you get alerted to when we're posting new content. And because we're doing the other side unplugged now, and it's not regular, it comes out whenever, those alerts are going to be more and more important. Our regular show, The Other Side, is fortnightly now, every second Friday. The next episode is episode 404. It'll be out next Friday night, March the 7th. Can you believe it's March already? March the 7th, and I'll look forward to seeing you then in our fancier studio. Bye for now.
Stay in touch. Check out our independent website at othersidetv.com.au. You can sign up for free there too, or join the exclusive side and help support our show for less than $5 a month.